Hey, what is up, mortals? Tim here. And before we get into today's video, I want to let you all know we have a merch store. Some of the items in it are only available for a limited amount of time. So if you're interested, go into the description and check it out. Each purchase helps us make more content. Secondly, if this video hits 100 likes by the end of the week, we will continue this what if. Third, if you did know, only 41.3% of you are subscribed to us. So please, hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon. Now, with that out of the way, let's get into the story! Izuku felt like giving up. He had no power and he'd been captured by the League of Villains. Not only that, but Bakugo was dragged into this mess as well. How pathetic. He honestly felt like laughing at his despair. He was just a quirkless nobody. Again. Hey, nerd! What's the matter with you? Bakugo yelled. Isn't it obvious, Ka-chan? I'm useless. That quirk that just suddenly manifested wasn't even a quirk. It was a living being that wanted to escape the League, and look what happened. We've been captured, and Venom is now in the hands of Shigaraki's goons. Bakugo heard Midoriya begin to tear up. He snarled in disgust at this. Oh, good grief. Is that it? No. Izuku, get yourself together. Whatever happened to that bright-eyed kid who would never falter in his dreams, despite what everyone told him? How would he feel if he saw the pitiful state you're in right now, huh? Ka-chan, Izuku sniffled. That's the first time in ages you've ever called me by my real name. Yeah, and I want you to stop calling me Ka-chan already. It's annoying, but I admit that I kinda respected you for never giving up. You even went so far as to change the meaning of your nickname. So I want you to live up to the meaning of it so we can both get out of here. But how could we escape, though? Last time we tried, we were surrounded and taken down by all the villains here. What would make this time any different? Simple, really. Last time I was fighting by myself, but this time, I'm hoping to be fighting as a tag team. You've studied my fighting moves for years, so I expect no one else to be able to fight as fluently alongside me as you. So what do you say, Izuku? Midoriya agreed with Bakugo. Good. Bakugo blasted a series of explosions at his restraints in order to at least loosen them enough for him to slip out of. After he was done with his own, he did the same for Midoriya. This caught the League members' attention though. They both got into fighting stances, but a new factor suddenly joined the equation. A knock was heard at the door. Pizza delivery. Who ordered pizza? Dabi asked. Midoriya and Bakugo looked at each other in confusion at what was going on, until something came crashing through into the building. Of justice! What? All Might? But it wasn't just All Might who appeared. Several heroes arrived at the scene who made quick work of the villains. Kamui Woods managed to grab many of the League members at once in his lacquered chains prison technique. Dabi tried to burn the wood restraints, but before he could do so, Gran Torino leaped into action. He kicked Dabi in the face. All Might chastised Shigaraki for his underestimation of heroes. Don't even bother trying to escape, honestly. You're surrounded. We have police forces and heroes surrounding your whole hideout from outside as we speak. Underestimate you, huh? Oh no, All Might. It's the other way around. You underestimate us! This caught the heroes off guard, as they didn't expect for this strange red substance to surround Shigaraki's body. Shigaraki, once carnage completely covered him, was able to easily break away from his restraints. Kamui Woods widened his eyes in shock and fear. That was one of his strongest moves, and this guy just broke away from it with little to no effort at all. How? What was this guy made out of? Shigaraki lunged at the heroes, but a black liquid began to cover his and the rest of the villains' bodies. All Might looked over to see if this was Kurogiri's doing, but Edge's shot had already knocked the Warp Gate user unconscious. What made All Might's heart drop in this moment, though, was he saw his two students, Bakugo and Midoriya, also become submerged in this black liquid and then teleported away. He tried to grab onto them to keep them from disappearing, but he wasn't swift enough. He screamed in anguish after this happened. One moment they were just in his line of sight. The next, they completely disappeared. What made things even worse here is when he was informed that their reinforcements were being attacked by a herd of Nomu. Some appeared stronger than others, and seemed to have some sort of actual sentience. Actually, the ones who did appear to even look similar to the one he fought back at USJ. Before he could do anything else, he heard a giant explosion which destroyed the League of Villains warehouse. Several heroes were in that warehouse, though. No, this couldn't be happening right now. All Might never planned for all of these variables. He feared the worst for his comrades. Uraraka's group had just arrived and they saw everything that happened. Needless to say, they were shocked beyond everything. They were filled to the brim with fear at this moment as soon as they saw a strange-looking person wearing a suit float into the sky. His face was completely mangled to the point it was unrecognizable, but he had this aura. The very intense aura of his that made them tremble in his presence. They didn't know who he was or what was up with him, but he was unlike anyone they'd ever faced before, and they'd faced a lot already. Uraraka shook her head and slapped her cheeks in order to help herself snap out of it. She ordered for everyone to get into their positions and get their heads in the game. They all nodded and got into position. Uraraka used her anti-gravity quirk in order to cause everyone to float. Ida used his engines to launch the team forward. They saw Midoriya and Bakugo surrounded by the other League of Villain members. Kirishima stretched out his hands towards the two. Bakugo was able to notice this and grabbed Izuku's arm suddenly, which caused the green-haired boy to jump a bit in surprise. Bakugo launched a huge explosion, which sent the two boys flying into the air. He grabbed Kirishima's arm and gripped it tight. Shigaraki saw what happened and growled.
I don't think so.
Midoriya looked down, and he could feel his heart practically beat out of his chest because of what was happening at this moment. Shigaraki was completely enveloped by a red symbiote, and he was leaping towards them with giant claws out. It was a terrifying sight, to be honest. Very few wouldn't be unnerved here. Guys, Shigaraki's catching up on us, fast! The students looked down to see what Izuku was talking about. They weren't aware of Shigaraki's upgrades, but they were in for a rude awakening. None of them expected for Shigaraki to even be able to get so far off the ground, let alone what looked like a red demon with talons out about to grab them. Ida, add more power to those engines of yours. We can't let them get us. Recipro burst! Ida yelled. Release! Uraraka yelled as she put her fingers together. The students were suddenly propelled downwards thanks to the combination of moves used. Shigaraki growled as he grabbed thin air. He grew frustrated as one of the heroes, Mount Lady, snatched him up and threw him to the ground. He groaned in slight pain before he got back up on his two legs.
You heroes are so annoying!
Shigaraki was about to attack the heroine, but he became distracted by something else. It was this black substance again. He looked over to All for One, his sensei. What was he doing?
Sensei!
Shigaraki cried out.
Shigaraki, my time is over. It's your time now to make your impact on society.
Shigaraki and the rest of the League members were teleported away from the area. It was so the two Titans could clash. All for One turned to face All Might and smiled at him.
You know, All Might, I really do disdain you and your hero society. I hate you with every fiber of my being. And after what you've done to me in the past, I figured revenge was in order.
What are you getting at, All for One?
Nana Shimura, your deceased master, the one I killed. Well, you see, how can I put this into words a brute like you could understand? Well, Shigaraki, the one that you tried to hurt multiple times, is actually her grandson.
All Might's jaw dropped in shock. His heart dropped. There was no way. It couldn't be. It wasn't true. He refused to believe it.
Oh, I can only imagine her rolling in her grave, knowing you've been attacking someone from her lineage, her only living descendant.
You lie! All Might yelled.
His birth name was Tenko Shimura. After his family died in a tragic accident, he was left on the streets, fending for himself. No one even batted an eye. He waited for a hero to come and save him, but no one ever came. So imagine a villain like yours truly, seeing him in such a pathetic state. Out of the kindness of my heart, I took him in, and even gave him my last name.
All Might gripped his fists tight and clenched his jaw in rage. All for One? You diabolical fiend! All Might launched himself at All for One and gave the evildoer an uppercut. He didn't stop after that. All Might was relentless. He swung a haymaker at All for One, causing him to spit out some blood. All for One was confused. Where did this renewed strength come from? Then he remembered what he heard from Tamura after the USJ incident. Stupid symbiote must have healed up All Might's injuries slightly. That gave him an idea, though. He couldn't believe he'd never thought of it before. But before he could take any action, All Might delivered another attack on All for One. He headbutted the evildoer, but All for One used a blast wave to launch All Might off of him. It worked, and All For One was relieved to be freed of All Might's heavy attacks. It honestly felt like a freight train had hit him. All For One summoned all of his Nomu to their space, but he did something All Might never expected for the man to do. The Nomu who had their symbiotes reached out towards All For One, and the man grabbed them. He laughed as he felt this new power surge through him. All of the symbiotes removed themselves from their Nomu and latched onto All For One.
I underestimated the power of these symbiotes. I never expected to feel so strong ever again.
Now die, All Might!
All For One was completely covered in a new symbiote. It didn't look the same as the others. Instead, it had red eyes, and the skin was black and greenish yellow. All Might did know how well he would do in this battle. All For One may have gotten his hands on another symbiote, but All Might was stronger now. He still had those embers of One For All left, so he had to make the most of the limited time he had left. Both All Might and All For One charged at each other. All Might was able to dodge a punch from All For One and gave a quick jab to him. All For One didn't appear to be too affected though. He grabbed All Might's arm and bit him. The hero hissed in pain before he grabbed All For One's head and squeezed it. He punched All For One in the face multiple times and threw a punch to the stomach. The force behind the punch sent All For One flying. All Might looked back at his bleeding arm. He could practically feel One For All leaving him at this point, but he had to hold onto it for a little longer. All Might breathed heavily. He saw All For One rush back at him. Before he could even move an inch, All For One slashed All Might's chest, causing blood to dribble down. All For One enhanced his already multiplied strength by stacking multiple quirks together in one arm after. It formed into something grotesque.
This is the end, All Might.
All Might felt his time cut in half. He clutched his chest in pain and his focus was off. He could feel himself losing form, but he tried to hold on as if holding on for dear life. It may have well as been the end. He looked at All For One and smiled. I agree. This is the end. All For One went in for an attack that hit All Might's side. It cut through, leaving All Might's body in shambles. Another part of his stomach was removed. All Might threw a fairly weak punch at first, that All For One even commented on, but All Might revealed something. I didn't put my back into it!
What?
United
All Might yelled. The #1 hero struck All For One in the face one last time, but there was far more strength behind the punch. So much power that there was enough wind pressure to create a crater in the ground and form a twister. All For One was left beaten into the ground, defeated. It didn't help that the symbiote that was once bonded with him left his side. All Might collapsed to his knees in exhaustion and pain. He didn't notice the symbiote leave. He forced himself up though. He saw the cameras recording him. He was now in his skinny state, exposed to the rest of the world. Everyone could now see his sorry state, but he wouldn't falter, not this time. He pointed to the cameras and said, "You're next." All the civilians who watched cheered in their belief that All Might was talking about the next generation of heroes, and that any other villains would be on said heroes' hit lists. All Might mustered up the strength to transform back into his muscular state one last time with his fist raised high in the air. It was at this moment All Might collapsed, face first, into the ground. Everyone gasped and paramedics were immediately on the scene. Police officers were also on scene as they contained All For One in a specially designed straitjacket. The paramedics put All Might on one of their stretchers and led him to their emergency vehicle. No one saw the black substance make its way onto All Might's foot. Once All Might was in the vehicle and taken to the hospital, police officers then went to investigate the premises in order to find any remnants of the strange symbiotic creatures. They were able to find an evacuated lab where it appeared the League of Villains held their experiments. It was then they found a couple leftover symbiotes, and one completely black and white symbiote that looked like it suffered plenty of abuse. An obscured figure watched the whole event take place in Camino Ward, and hummed before getting up out of their chair and proceeded to put on a pair of gloves. Huge ramifications were coming to Hero Society. Thank you all for watching the video to the end! Now, there's a few more things I want to go over before the video ends. On behalf of We the Celestials, I want to thank the writer of this video, as well as the editors of this video. Their details will be in the description below. If you're a voice actor, editor, or writer, or you're interested in becoming one of those, go to the Discord that is in the description of this video and hit up the head of one of those departments. We're always looking for members to join us. So that's it from us for today's video. And thank you all for watching, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're interested, and hit that like button if you liked the video. Until next time, peace out everybody, have an amazing day.